Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Malloc. Malloc is a privacy and data security startup. Today, we will talk about your data, about your device, and what we can do to protect your privacy. But let me start with a story of how everything started. So one day, I was talking with Artemis, my co-founder. She's sitting over there on the phone. And she was like, Maria, let's go have a drink at Nicosia City. I was like, sure, let's go. Where shall we go? And she just mentioned the name of a bar on the phone. I didn't know where the bar was, so after the call, I just turned on my Google Maps, and before even typing anything, the first recommendation, the first suggestion, was the name of that bar. And I was like, interesting. And the following days, we have been discussing this with friends, and everyone was saying, hey, we always get advertisements about things that we talk about. I was talking with this thing with my friends, and then I got these advertisements on Instagram. So what is happening? And this is how we started this investigation. And we created Malloc with a mission to understand what is happening on our devices, to give users control of their data and their devices, and help them regain their privacy. So let me tell you a bit more about myself and my background. I have a bachelor's in computer science. I'm a software engineer. I was working at Google, and during my PhD, I was investigating recommender systems. Recommender systems are systems that try to collect as much information about you as possible in order to then recommend you products, things that you would like to read, things that you would like to buy. Every interaction you do with the internet or your mobile device generates data. So I'm not talking just about the posts that you post on Facebook, the pictures that you take and you store on your device. I'm talking about what was the last song that you heard? How many times you have listened to that song? How many times do you change your profile picture? What do you read? How much time do you spend on reading this article? And what is happening is that with every interaction, you produce data. In your electric car collects data about your weight and takes pictures of you. And when you're using your Fitbit, data are collected and sent to the servers. So anything you do on the internet or any interaction you have with your smart devices generates data. And all this data are used to build an online profile of you. So we create a user profile with all your characteristics, with your interests, with your opinions. We know if you're pregnant or not, if you have divorced or not. We know what you think, and online companies try to use this data to then predict things about you and to recommend things about you. And I don't know if you remember, back in 2017, Economist had this title that the world's most valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. Data are really valuable, and in matter of fact, 80% of business now use data in order to develop their strategy, and 97% of them use data in one way or another in order to produce more profit. And it's not surprising that the most powerful tech companies today aggressively collect as much data as possible about you, and they then use them to make profit. The thing is that all these companies are trying to collect data even when you don't realize it. So what if your Alexa at home is actually listening to you without you noticing it? Or when your phone is actually listening to you without you even realizing? And I don't know if you remember, back in 2016, 1,000 audio recordings leaked from Google Home. And by investigating these leaks, we identified that these recordings have been activated without the user. So you typically say, hey, Google, or hey, whatever company you're using. But those recordings were during night, and it was clear that no person actually activated them. So you may tell me, hey, Maria, I don't care about my privacy. I have anything to hide, and I actually like it. And the thing is that I also enjoy when Spotify recommends me a new clip to listen, and when Netflix actually recommends me a movie that I may like. The danger is when these companies, when the data fall into the hands of companies that are not so kind to you, and they're going to use the data in different ways. And think about, for example, Clearview. I don't know if you're familiar with Clearview. Clearview started scraping the internet a few years back. They collected many facial photos that were just lying around on the internet as public data, and then they used them to train a machine learning model to detect people, and then they turned around and gave these algorithms to law enforcement companies and organizations. So they use the public data to then harm you. And what about Cambridge Analytica? I don't know if you remember what happened with Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica started as a company that was doing online quizzes on Facebook. The result of that is to collect many data about you, build user profiles, and then use these profiles to target you, and then try to change your opinion with result to also affect your political views. And actually, people claim that they have been instrumental in changing the results of the Brexit and the 2016 US elections. Even Facebook, I mean, Facebook started doing that even before Cambridge Analytica and before Clearview. Back in 2010, I remember when I was doing my PhD, Facebook was doing an experiment with people on the platform. So what they did is that they collected all the posts about you, they tried to understand in which emotional condition are you, if you're sad or happy, and then they did this experiment. They kept posting things to your wall, to the public page that you always visit, about things that are negative. So they tried to affect your mood. And they actually achieved to measure this change in your mood by showing you this different information. And yes, these companies are using your public data in order to build your user profile and then recommend things to you and then use it in other ways. But we also have spyware. And in Malloc, we categorize spyware in 3 categories. So we have spyware that are applications that actually stalk on you, applications that someone can just download on your phone, and then they can log in from another computer and say, I want a picture from this phone, or a 10 minutes audio, or a 10 seconds video, and please send it to my email. But we also have application with spyware behavior. So I don't know if you remember application with spyware behavior. So in Malloc, we actually identified an application that every time you turn it on, it takes a picture of you and sends it to the cloud. We found another application, a health application, where you grant permission for it to take a picture of you, and then it's keep using your camera again and again. We found applications that even if you turn them on, if you don't turn them on for 3 days, they keep sending data to the cloud. And then we have a third category, which are legit apps, but these apps have been hacked. For example, I don't know if you remember how Jeff Bezos got hacked in 2018. So someone sent him a link on WhatsApp, he clicked on the link, and that link downloaded the code into WhatsApp. Any information that WhatsApp had access to, like photos, conversation, or files, this code would collect them and send them to a server in Saudi Arabia. And no one was able to detect this because it was looking like WhatsApp was sending all this information. In fact, it was WhatsApp, but affected by a malicious code. And this is what we try to do at Malloc, and this is what we try to monitor and prevent anyone from recording or transmitting data from your device without you knowing. And we use a lot of technologies in order to achieve that. Our most distinct characteristic is that we run on the device of the user. We do real-time detection and prevention by inspecting the behavior of the applications running on your phone. And we also use an approach called federated learning, which allows you to build on the device, get benefit, to work on the device, get benefit from the knowledge produced on any devices. So how do we solve this problem beyond Malloc, of course? Is GDPR enough? So in the recent years, we have seen a lot of legislation being in place. We have seen GDPR, we have seen California Privacy Act in the US, but is it enough? The thing is that as legislation is not bad. I mean, GDPR is a very good instrument. What is wrong? It's the application of this instrument. For example, Through GDPR, it tells you that all data should be anonymized. So the common practice, the common principle is that as a researcher or as a database holder, before you give any data for further analysis, you should anonymize them. That means that you should remove any information that characterizes a person, like the name, the surname, or the ID. But is it enough? And we have evidence that, of course, this is not enough, because it's based on the assumption that even if these data are being matched with other data around in the web, you will not be able to identify the person. The thing is that even with anonymized data, there are different cases that we provided evidence that even if you use them in combination with public information, you can then target a specific person. And here I will give you an example, a previous example, this example. So, so what happened, I think this was in 2012, a student got actually public medical data. These medical data were anonymized, so they didn't have the name, the surname, or the ID, or the social insurance number of the people. But this student got these medical records and matched them with a voters list, which she bought for £20. And she put those data side to side, and just by putting them side to side, she matched 60% of the persons that are there. So she identified 60% of the people that were in the medical data, and she could say what they have voted in the last elections. And let me tell you another example. When AOL in 2006 tried to improve the search engine, they gave out a lot of data, a lot of queries of AOL. So they made this competition, and they asked researchers all over the world to use this data in order to improve the search engine. On August 4th of 2006, they released this public data set, and only 3 days later, the New York Times were able to identify this one woman from one village in England who had a dog, and she had also a disease, just from the search queries. And imagine the shock of that lady when she saw her face and her public now search history being written, being in the news all over the world. Yeah, so anonymization is not enough, but then we also have legislation about cookies and about consent. Are they really enough? So with cookies, nowadays, when you visit a website, they tell you that you need to accept the certain cookies to be allowed. What is happening is that people get bored, and the reality is that if you don't say consent and if you don't say yes to all the cookies, half of the website will not be working. So people just say, yeah, take all the cookies, I don't mind, let's proceed. And again with consent, now in the mobile apps, you need to give consent whether an application is going to use your camera or your microphone. For example, every time you want to share a picture on Messenger, Facebook asks you to actually verify if you want this picture to be sent to the messenger. However, you're going to do this once, you're going to do this twice, then you'll be fed up and you'll say, yeah, okay, take all the pictures, I don't mind. So the practicality of the solutions is not really practical. And let me give you another example. I don't know if anyone recognizes this map. Anyone? No? Okay, so this is from, this is the map of the world, and it maps the users that have used Strava. I don't know if you know Strava, if you're going for jogging and you're actually using this to measure your fitness. Well, yeah. Well, Strava gave this picture as an advertisement of how many people they are using their application and their devices all over the world. What they didn't realize is that without knowing, they actually exposed the largest US military facility in Afghanistan, because the soldiers were using Strava and they're going like in circles, doing their gymnastics every morning. So they mapped this area. I mean, who would imagine that you can expose so much information by just publishing a world map? So the question is privacy dead, and can we do anything about it? And the thing is that if we really want to preserve privacy, we need to follow a principle called differential privacy. Differential privacy is a statement that says that you should be able to understand data, to learn from data, but without watching the data. And in this way, if the observer doesn't observe the data and they know nothing about the subjects under the data set, then the data remain unobserved and the people remain unobserved. However, is it possible to answer questions and solve challenges without even seeing data? And the best example to characterize that is the dogs in the airport, the sniffing dogs. So what they do is that they can smell if there is a gun or drugs in the suitcase, but they don't really see the content of the suitcase. And this is how now AI is progressing and how we're working on solving problems without actually looking at the data. And there are many approaches that you can use. In Malloc, we use federated learning. You also have multi-party computation, where you have two different parts, and only when these parts connect, it makes sense, and you can actually identify the person. We have differential privacy, where you can introduce noise. We have single-use accountability, which is the example with a dog. So you, for example, if you want to detect fires in a forest, you don't really need to look at the forest. You may want to check for the color red or for the, if there is smoke, right? So you need to actually look for only what you are looking for and don't see the rest. And people ask me, hey, Maria, can we do anything about it? I mean, privacy is dead, right? And the thing is that, yeah, well, we cannot prevent the data economy from developing in the first place. And actually, we don't want to. I mean, there are so many benefits of combining machine learning with data and analyzing data and getting insights. However, it's not too late to reclaim our privacy. And of course, it's up to the companies to spend the extra money, get the new technologies in order to make their algorithms privacy preserving, and yet be able to produce efficient results and improve our daily lives and also improve the world we live in. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Maria Terzi. I think we will see if there are any questions. You can use Slido to ask your questions. Personally, I love the presentation. Thank you very much for that. If you have any questions, you just need to go on Slido and use the code Reflect Fest, or you can just scan the QR code. I'll get out of your way. And you can ask any questions that you might have. So, Maria, we have our first question. The first question is how safe we are when using VPN services. Will we ever achieve a real anonymous connection without tracking?
Well, great question. So let's start from what is VPN services? What is a virtual private network? So that means that your data go to another server, and then from that server, they go to the website that you want to visit. Yes, they hide your identity before going to that server. However, that other server that you use, the VPN server that you use, actually collects your data. So, well, I don't know if it's a matter of safety or privacy, but of course it doesn't solve the issue. Anonymous connection without tracking. The tracking is now trending. For example, now Apple asks you to opt out of tracking if you would like to. Real anonymous connection. Yeah, and you mentioned also anonymous. I don't know who made the question, but anonymity is also a bit of a tricky word, right? So what it means to be anonymous. Now researchers can understand who you are by just the way you type, so how fast you type and the vocabulary that you use. They can actually identify you. And if you're talking about tracking for advertisements, yeah, it's a bit of a generic question, so I'm not sure if I can cover it fully. Yeah.
Okay, there are a few more questions flying in. So the next one. Someone says, great presentation. Is Malloc an app that we can download and help us protect our privacy?
Thank you for the question. We have the first version of the application ready. It's called Anti-Stalker. It's on Google Play. You can download it. It will notify you if anyone is recording or if anyone is turning on your camera or your microphone. It will tell you which application it was and for how long it was recording. And we also offer a feature for data usage. So we show to the user how much data each application has sent over time over the usage of the application. And of course, if you detect anything interesting, you can swipe left and report this back to us. So we have people reporting things like, oh, this application, which I haven't used for 3 days, is sending data to me, or why is that application turning on the camera overnight? I was sleeping during that time. And the application will be updated frequently. For the iOS version, we're going to have it ready in 5 months, so keep waiting.
And then let's choose 2 more questions quickly. There's another one that says, how can we guarantee that Malloc doesn't track you?
Yeah.
Good question.
Great question. So Malloc does not send any data to the cloud. We have a machine learning model that runs on the device. And actually, we achieve to learn from the knowledge produced on all the devices using a principle of federated learning. For those who understand machine learning, how other machine learning companies work, they collect all the data to the cloud, they build the machine, the algorithms, the models there, and then they send the model back to you. We don't want to collect users' data, so we trained the model on the device with your usage, and we just send on the cloud the new knowledge that has been produced. So using Malloc, you monitor Malloc as well, so you can check if Malloc is sending any data and where the data are being sent.
Those of us who don't understand machine learning, we're lucky to have you. So let's take 1 more question. You choose.
I want to answer 2 questions.
Okay, go for it. Which one do you want to go?
So to be able to help with the world the international GDPR policy, I think Malloc will be instrumental. In Malloc, we don't follow the GDPR policies, we don't follow the laws. And by using the word "don't follow" is that we do what is right for the user, and we are not like just answering to the legislation that is in place. So over time, we think that more legislation will be in place and actually protect you and add things in a more applicable manner.
Okay, and the last one, I think that's the one that you're looking at. Yeah. Isn't your app a threat to big sharks? Would you ever be in danger?
This is actually a question that we have been discussing with my co-founders from day one. We have seen applications recording your data without you knowing, and we also want to release some articles soon about their behavior. So we expect that we're going to have some buzz around that. Of course, we're going to use it to our benefit. Yeah.
So, Maria, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dr. Maria Terzi.
Thank you, everyone.